I love the idea of the Hot Wheels put it together Barbie car. Yeah, I think if we could see more things like that, but how do you affect it? I mean, you were trying to affect that and television, you know, who we see being engineers and scientists on top. There's a lot to affect culturally, so, but I love that idea. I want one for my niece.
Yeah. And actually, just on, we had been talking about, like once people were in college, getting them into the field. Are there programs out there right now working towards getting all of those AP Calc kids into math and science grad programs? Because I have to admit, like any of my friends that were in Calc programs, or that any of my high school friends that were girls that were ended up in Calc programs, after you mentioned that, I think they're all liberal arts majors. So it's just if the capability is there, are there any programs to then project further into science?
That's been part of the problem. I mean, you're right, the capability is there, but some part of what you also see is if I can get a 5 on the Calc AP test, I never have to take math again. And I see a lot of people nodding their heads in here, right? So there is sort of that, I just got to get it done. In my own institution, which is highly selective, you got to do the AP or you're not getting in. And you got to do it to get in. You're capable of doing it, but you don't like it. And why is that? You know, and so that's kind of where the issues need to start to get addressed. But really seriously, I think we could address this issue, not seriously, if we could just get rid of all junior high math teachers who actually do really at that point start to say things like, and I have a friend who has a daughter who happens to be blonde, who happens to be bright, and got told in her junior high math class just 4 years ago, you're blonde, you're not going to do well in honors math in high school. And she's failing honors math right now. So, I mean, I think junior high math teachers is kind of where we have to start on this one. I'm not, yeah.
Well, and interestingly enough, there are some programs that came through the Scientific Opportunity Bill. Tracy, what was the name of that passed last year? The America Competes Act. And that bill has some particular programs in there to provide training for K through 12 science teachers, to recruit more teachers, to provide money to help train them in terms of keeping kids, not just girls, but kids generally, into the STEM fields. So there is something there. There was additional money that was put into that program through the stimulus bill as well. And so there has been some targeted efforts there. But the reality is, I think in many respects, we do have an enforcement issue in the sense that I don't think people realize that Title IX applies to STEM. And that means that there needs to be some efforts looked at in terms of equity and the climate, right? Title IX applies to sexual harassment and climate issues on campus as well. How can we use that as a tool effectively in the same way that we've done for athletics, right? In the same way that we hope we'd have the same kind of outcome. So, other questions? I saw a bunch of hands. Yeah.
Really quickly, something in reference to, I think it was Kathy, you had talked about the increase that you helped support from 40% to 72% in the university. You indicated that it was curricular and housing. Do you recall what those things were?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The curricular issue was computer programming. We were teaching it in the fall and not very well, and the girls assumed that all the guys had seen it before. And so they assumed that their inability was a lack of preparation when really we were just teaching it poorly. And by moving it into the spring, they had a better sense of, they had already gotten some college grades, they kind of knew where they fit, they were more comfortable with where they were in college. We put it in the spring, it was the first hard new thing they got, and they did better on that. The housing issue, we happen to have all single-sex housing on our campus. And when you allow random processes to take over and scatter what's effectively 100 young women, freshmen, among 13 residence halls, you get 6 to 7 a residence hall. We condensed them into 6, and so now they have more community in their own residence halls, and we happen to select residence halls where resident assistants in those halls were already engineers, where we had juniors and seniors. So now we've got some really strong vertical and horizontal communities in those halls that are working really well for them. Mm-hmm.